Welcome to the Under the Hat podcast,
the show where we talk about everything and anything that is top of mind in education.
The goal is to provide meaningful conversations to what is currently happening in our classrooms.
Stories, pains,
moments of success.
We want to hear it all.
Hey friends, welcome back to Under the Hats. You are joined here by myself, Steve, who's probably the least important person here in the room, and also Sophie, our co-host. And we have Andy Osborn on the show. We are excited for the conversation. But first, Sophie, how has your week gone? Is everything okay?
It'll be fine.
We were just talking before we went live, just this is the time of year where it can be a little stressful, right? There's a lot of work going on. There's a lot of teaching and learning going on. Just talking about that before we went live, just that reminder of taking care of ourselves, really leaning into that piece of it. And Sophie, I don't know if we talked about FETC last time.
I don't know if we did either.
Yeah. How was your trip? How did it go? What did you learn?
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic. I enjoyed it so much. It was a wonderful experience. That week that I was down there, my kids did actually go to school because we had like crazy snow and really cold temperatures. So they were like at school or at home the week before FETC and the week after FETC, but they did go to school while I was gone. So that was interesting. And then I did a session. It was a Canva and Cami App Smash session that had over 130 people in it. It was phenomenal to present and to showcase that. It was so cool. It was a wonderful experience. Hung out with the Edu Guardians. It was just an amazing experience, and it filled my bucket up tremendously. And then I got to come home and spend a whole bunch more time with my kids because they didn't have school.
That is fun. No, that's great to hear. I was reminded recently because Sophie, you and I mostly deliver PD, and we're going to be talking a lot about PD today, online.
Mhm.
But like sometimes we often forget the joy of doing it in person. And there was like one thing like last week that I was like, I actually heard and felt the energy of the room just showing one feature. Everyone's like, I was like, oh, that's right. People kind of enjoy the things that we offer. Like you kind of get disconnected from that, which
especially if they have their cameras off and you don't hear them. And there's a lot of barriers of doing PD virtually. You can get to more people, but you don't feel the energy in the room. You don't get to talk to them after, like as they're coming going into another. Sorry, my husband's like, you podcasting today? Yes, I'm podcasting like right now.
We're living it. We are here.
We're literally live. But today we have with us Andy, who has something in common with me and Steve, but do different things in common with me. He's an ed tech instructional coach, and I used to be an ed tech instructional coach. I was one for like 5.5 years before I went off and joined the EdTech world. But Andy has been an educator for 23 years, and in that time, he has taught elementary grades 3 through 6, middle school English and journalism, led as an administrative intern, and supported students, teachers, and administrators as a technology TOSA for the past 7 years. His well-rounded experience has made him an advocate for English language learners, yes, and underprivileged students. And he's also the president of Orange County Q. So, like, Steve is very involved with Q as well in his own area. So that's where he has a common thing with Steve. So, yay, commonalities. Welcome, Andy. And if you don't mind, that's sort of like your education journey, but maybe a little bit about before that. Like, you were a teacher, you were admin intern, now you're a coach. But what about before that?
Well, good morning, Sophie, and good morning, Steve. It's really a pleasure to be on your podcast. Hi, everyone. I'm Andy. A little bit about my educational journey. I'll probably start off by saying I wasn't a great student in school, and I find like people are kind of in two camps, right? Teachers are in two camps, right? They're the ones that were really good in school, and there were the ones that maybe weren't and want to affect change. And I was kind of in the latter group. So me becoming a teacher was kind of a surprise to my family and everyone. But I've been doing it. This is my 25th year, which I can hardly believe, being an educator. And I started out in 2000 in a tiny district in Orange County, Buena Park School District. And I taught fourth grade. And like a lot of people starting out, you don't know anything. The teacher prep courses aren't, great at doing the one thing they're supposed to do, which is prepare people. No shade. I mean, they try their best, but I slowly learned the trade. I slowly learned how to incorporate more tech and fold it into what I did. But back then it was like the Stone Age, right? Like we had email and that was about it. I had an overhead projector for a long time, and I knew how to fix it. Yeah, right. Well, I knew how to fix it, right? If something went wrong with it, I could replace the bulb. And then slowly they incorporated more and more tech over the years, and there was a need for a position like I have right now, a tech TOSer, an instructional coach of educational technology. So I applied for that immediately when it became available, and it's great to have a job that plays to your strengths. So I love what I do. I have dabbled in admin. I have a credential in admin. I have a single subject and a multi-subject, so I taught middle school as well. So I have like a well-rounded experience. And I also am a part of Q, which is great. I love it. It's helped me build my network. It's how I met Steve. He and I met at the Learning Development Institute this past summer through Q, and we've become friends ever since. So that's a little bit about me. I'm also a father of twins, and my wife is an educator in my district as well. She's an instructional coach as well.
How fun! Like my wife and I, like, we have very different careers, very different. But I often hear, like, people that are, oh, my wife or my husband's a teacher, and we have that commonality. I think that's phenomenal. And so so from the Q standpoint, Andy, like, what is that PLN meant to you? Like, what were the, I guess, advantages? And then also, like, how long have you been involved with Q? Are you one of the OGs, or have been around with it for a while?
Not that long, actually. I think this might be my third year. So as president, there's still a lot that I don't know. And actually, I share the presidency. I should mention that. I'm actually co-presidents with Angela Barnett, who helps me out a great deal. And then also Andrea Earl, who is our outgoing president. She's a ball of energy, and she knows the ins and outs, and she's been in Q for a long time. So she and Myra Deister, who's our treasurer, they know all of the context, and they help me with that because I've only been in it for 3 years. But you asked me, how is that PLN? It's helped me. It's been huge. All of us teachers especially are kind of siloed, and they exist within their own little bubble or the four walls of their classroom. And that was me for a long time. And I remember when the head of our tech team at the first school I started out with left, and he took a job as a professor of ed tech at a college, and it fell to me. And I'm like, all right, now what? I don't have a network. I don't know anybody in the biz. I don't know what I'm doing, but I knew about Q because everybody knows about Q in Spring Q, the big conference. So I went to a few of those, and it was a huge, eye-opening, mind-blowing experience for me to be amongst all of these like-minded people who were geeked out over ed tech, and also big on building a community and being a part of something. And so that's been huge for me. I've met so many people. I got my current job kind of as a result of that. Met my boss in my prior district. My current boss, he was a consultant for my prior district, but then also maintained a relationship with him through Q. And now he's my boss in Westminster. So it's been a huge thing for me.
Yeah, I remember there was an OCQ event that you had me speak at, which was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. But you and your boss kind of made that joke of like, well, here he's the boss, but at the school district it goes the other way around. I thought that was really cool and neat.
Yeah, he and I have a great rapport, and he's a really kind, wonderful. He's the best boss I've ever had. He's a great guy. Gerardo Martinez. I should probably name drop Gerardo Martinez. He's a great guy, and he knows everybody. Talk about networking. He know anywhere we go, he knows everyone, and he introduces me to people. It's been great for me. He's like, whenever we go to a conference, he's the last one out the door, and he's talking to somebody as he goes out the door. He's that kind of guy. Definitely a people person.
Really smart, really smart. I have to add that. Just my chats with him as well. We have, so one thing, Andy, that when you booked in for this episode, one thing that really came out to me, like almost hit me in the face, really, was like something along the lines of like, from a professional development standpoint, can the PD, can what we offer keep up with this crazy fast paced of not just the technology, but like narrowing in specifically on AI, right? And I know that everyone's talking about AI, but like this topic in particular, like I've not heard a whole lot on that, of like, what are we doing to facilitate the PD with this fast paced in mind? Just really curious to hear like your analysis, your deep thoughts on that.
It's Steve. It's been huge. AI. I don't. I don't even know where to begin. We can't. The short version is we can't really keep up because it's exploding right now. Everybody knows it's a huge thing. I know something is in the zeitgeist when my father knows about it, and he's telling me that he's generating pictures of cars online using whatever image generator. And I know that it's at the mainstream when my dad is doing it, when my parents are doing it. How do we keep up? We try our best. We've got several different branches that we're using in WSD and OCQ. For example, we have the I-4 cohort in Westminster School District, which is a cohort of self-selected teachers, innovators, who have signed up to be out of their classrooms for a couple of days a year and attend PDs that I, myself, and my colleague, Casey Canale, who's the other EdTech instructional coach in our district, and Gerardo Martinez, we lead these PDs. In fact, we just did one yesterday. The cohort has grown such that there are two cohorts now. There's a year one and a year two. So we just did the year two cohort yesterday. And it's super fun. We teach about AI and what's new and fresh, and new Gen AIs that have come out, but not only that, how to use it effectively, which is equally as important, and the digital literacy behind that. I did a PD yesterday within the larger PD about how to create choice boards using all different Gen AIs. We looked at Perplexity, we looked at Claude, we looked at ChatGPT, we looked at Magic School, we looked at Brisk, and I kind of gave them all a template to plug into each of these Gen AIs to see which one generated the best output. And then we took that output and we threw it into Canva to make it look pretty for our students. And by the end of the PD, they left with something not in their hands, but on their computer that they could go back the next day and implement into their classroom. So that was super fun. That's just one example. So we do I-4. Also, Gerardo leads a series of, I would call them more meetings rather than PDs, our AI task force. And so that's perhaps even more important because that's the policy behind student use of AI in our district, which is a huge topic. Of course, everybody wants to make sure that we're not sharing student data online and that we're using it in an ethical manner. And that's what that group is about. And that's also a group of self-selected teachers. And so he's crafting policy with the help of others and taking it to that group to vote on, to look at, to tweak, and we're making progress on that. In addition to that, stop me if I'm going on too long. In addition to that, we're also attending monthly meetings at the county. OCDE puts on AI Forward, which is a series of PDs where we're kind of getting our direction from them. So they come, Wes Creasel and Canal come and they lead those and give us what's new in Gen AI and what direction everybody is heading. And we have conversation. It's like all the big wigs in all the different districts in Orange County. It's huge. So in fact, I'm going to one of those on Monday. I love going to those. It's great. It's where I get a lot of my information from. And Wes, who leads them, is also on the OCQ board. So it's like a big, it's like a big family. So
I was about to say, it sounds like a family. You all are intertwined. And...
Yeah. Well, so having that level of like community has to be super beneficial, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't know if I'm just going to stick with California right now because that's where I can wrap my brain around at this point. But like, not every part of the state has that close knitness, right? Like there's you look at various areas. Like my area, it's really hard to do that because of just like everything's really spread out right across the Central Valley. Like you talk to me and Adamores, who we're technically both part of Central California, regionally speaking, but we're in very different areas dealing with just different folks, right? And so yeah, I have to applaud you on that. I also love how you, at least at the district level, how you're tackling not both, but more than one critical element of AI simultaneously, right? Like the learning and the strategies and the implementation is important, but like looking at more on like the policy end, super smart. Love that.
Yeah, I cringe every time I hear this metaphor, building the plane as we fly it, but that truly is kind of what we're doing here, because this is such new uncharted territory, but also it's exciting, it's fun, it's interesting, and not since, this is going to sound bad, not since COVID have I felt so needed in the ed tech space, in the space of educators, as I do right now, because everybody is hungry for it. They want to know more, and it's like a fresh new avenue we're going down, the Wild West.
Yeah. How are
You know
you
what, that
all?
really does.
Go ahead, Sophie.
My
Go
turn.
ahead.
That really does like register with me because I was a coach during COVID and I was helping a teacher that was just trying to get to retirement that May, like just get me through to retirement and type of thing. And I'm like online virtually with him every day, trying to just get him through. And like you were really needed during that time because there were teachers that even though they had went to these trainings, they ignored the trainings. They had been prepared to do this, they just didn't actually take it seriously because they're like, well, I'm never going to use it type of stuff. And then they were forced into it. So now they're like, oh, now I have to actually learn this. And so, but they're reaching out, begging and asking. And we bonded very quickly because it was, I was moved to a new school in the district. And then I came back from maternity leave, thrown into this school. I was there for like a month, 2.5 months, and we went into COVID. And so we bonded really quick. We bonded
Right.
really quick because they needed my help and then they knew I was going to be there for them. And then now through this AI wave, I find that my community online is what's really helping me learn and keep up and do all this stuff. On socials, especially because if it wasn't for that, then I wouldn't really know what was going on. And the community as like a whole, the ed tech community as a whole is really leaning on each other to keep up with things because there's impossible for one person to know how all of them are going. And even like
Mm.
the list that you were just talking about there, I can immediately think of like, okay, well, what about snorkel? Have you tried snorkel? There's already so many more tools out there that it's just so hard to keep up with everything.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, and if I could just add on to that, I learn from my teachers that I coach as well. I find out about new ed tech, or maybe ed tech that has been around for a minute. And I learn, I feel as though I learn as much from them as they do from me. The relationship is truly reciprocal. I was in one of my teachers' classrooms earlier this year, and she said, "You want to come in and watch me do the Nearpod typing curriculum with my kids?" And I said, "What Nearpod typing curriculum?" Turns out there's like a whole curriculum called Typesy in Nearpod that our district pays for, and I had no idea that existed. The other day, I was at the ABC Unified Ignite EdTech Symposium, and somebody mentioned to me, I was in a session, and you know how it is, showing you this, showing you that. Yeah. I've heard all of that. And then all of a sudden at the end, one of the, it's an EdTech, not coach, but coordinator, excuse me, from LACO stops by my desk and says, "Hey, did you know you can make a game in Claude?" And like there was like a dead silence, and I'm like, "No, can you show me how to do that?" And so she showed me how to prompt Claude to create an interactive vocabulary game about the American Revolution. And not only that, Claude can explain to the kids why they got the answer wrong. And Claude
Mm.
codes the whole thing right in front of you. It's amazing. Like I never knew that. And so now I'm in turn showing the other members of I4 how to do stuff like that. You can just make an impromptu quiz just like that on Claude. It's really neat. So stuff like that. Like I learn from people everywhere I go. And if it weren't for my network, I don't know what. I lean on them for everything.
Wow. My former district, this is a few years ago, mind you, that like when I was there, I served on a committee that was like all about vetting the tools that we have, right? And at that time, the messaging was like, we need one tool for one solution. That it. Or if it's like a formative solution, max 3. Like we're gonna have 3, like the Quizlet, Ed Puzzle falls into that, right? And Cami was like, they're like, this is our annotating tool, which I cringe at that verbiage now because it does more than that. But
It's way more than
Does
that.
so much more.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then obviously like okay, our video editing software, like one day dedicated thing, that's WeVideo, right? Like so, but with AI, and Andy, like let me know if you agree or disagree, like you can't really do that. Like it doesn't make sense to me to say like this is going to be our one AI tool for the entire district, right?
Right.
And just hearing your list, like you kind of laid out like a pretty robust list, I feel, of like all the tools that you're presenting on, that you're training on. So what is where's the give and take with that, right? Like how many is too many? How do you think
Yeah.
we vet them? Like, because that's probably a difficult question to answer, but I
That's a
think
really
worth a
good
conversation.
question. Sorry to walk over with the last
No,
part
no,
of what
no,
you
no.
were saying. That's a
Yeah.
really good question, Steve. I don't think I've found that line, that boundary yet. My philosophy on it, I put a lot of faith and trust in the teachers. I educate them on the ills of sharing student information online. I give them the parameters, and then I give them all of the stuff. And I'm like, try it out. See if you can break it. See what's best, what works best for you. And that's actually what I did in the I4 PD just the other day. I said, all right, we're going to look at Claude, we're going to look at Perplexity, we're going to look at Magic School, we're going to look at Brisk. Which one? Pick your flavor. Which one is going to do the job best? And they always want to know, well, which one is the best? I can't tell you that. I can tell you that I like a certain one, but what I like is not going to maybe work the best for you. You need to find what fits you, what glass slipper fits you the best. So
Also,
That's
best
what
at
we did.
what? Like best
Right.
at
Yeah.
what? Like
Right.
that.
What?
They
Um,
wanted to know that. They wanted to know, well, which instance would ChatGPT work the best? And I'm like, well, I can tell you what I've seen online. ChatGPT does creative stuff really well, and Perplexity does research really, really well. And Claude can do coding, but it's also like the fit and finish of it is really, really nice. It's really smooth. It pulls everything to a document that you can publish online.
mhm.
Try all of them. That's where we're at right now in this. It's kind of just I not really the Wild West, but kind of like the Wild West. It's just kind of like this organic, open, free range thing right now, and we're trying to figure it all out. But you're right. There's not just one tool that's gonna do the job really well. There's a bunch of them, and now what we're starting to see, the trend that we're going in, is that all of these existing online platforms that we've loved forever are now infusing AI into what they do, like quizzes, for example, is one that has AI built in and is really a game changer for that platform. And there are a bunch of others. Canva has AI in it now, and
Right.
it's at least Nearpod does, and the list grows and grows and grows.
I don't think you can compete in the ed tech world right now and not have an AI component of some kind in there. You have to, or they're gonna go somewhere where that does have the AI.
Right.
You Steve asked you the question about like how are you vetting them all, and I was at FETC. I went to like an inclusion leader summit, and one of the questions that was asked was like, okay, so have you cut AI off? Have you allowed AI? Like, how did you do that? Are
Mm.
teachers allowed to use it? Are teachers and students are allowed to use it? And there was one district that was like, it's completely blocked until the district figures out which ones are okay and which ones we're going to allow, which means the teachers are going outside of work to use it and the students are going
Right.
outside of school to use it.
Mm.
And then there are districts that have just left it wide open to literally anything and everything. And then they're like, okay, listening to the teachers, what do you all think? Let's vote, let's discuss, let's do this. And so like everything is open, but the district's only going to buy like 3 to 5. So how did you guys go about that?
Our district is kind of, I would say we're more progressive than other districts in Orange County. I would put us up there with like maybe 2 other districts in terms of how much AI we're allowing, how far along we are in terms of developing policy and guidelines. I know Santa Ana is doing really great work with that right now. We look to them for a lot of stuff. I believe Capo is another one who's far along, but don't quote me on that. I give a lot of credit to Gerardo Martinez for vetting different AIs. And let me be clear, we don't actually allow our students to use AI without some sort of support or supervision, or at all for that matter. I don't want to get quoted on this podcast. We don't allow them to use it at all. Right now, we are in the process of developing a policy around that, and that's very important for protecting students from malicious use of their data. Having said that, our district does block certain AIs. We're taking a look, and we've said no to Gemini on our Google. We don't allow the teachers to access Gemini using their district Google accounts. I'm trying to think of another one. I think Copilot, I think we've blocked as well. But the others that I mentioned that I looked at in our PD the other day, those ones are wide open for the teachers to use. And like you said, Sophie, the teachers can just go home and use it privately. I mean, the teachers can go home and use Gemini, and it's wonderful. I've used it myself. It's great. Every Google search is now enhanced with Gemini. They give you a little synopsis of your question and then links, and that's kind of like Perplexity does, and that's like really, really neat. I love it. It's the way I go now.
Right? I use Gemini all the time, and I like how our company has set it up where it won't allow Gemini to save or learn from our inputs. So I feel better about using it on that platform because they've set up those security pieces, but I use it for literally everything. It's embedded
Yeah.
inside of docs now. It's embedded inside of slides
Mm.
now. It's embedded inside of sheets now. And Steve knows I love a good sheet. So we've got I'm just using Gemini everywhere and asking. I Gemini things instead of Googling things anymore until they started embedding Gemini inside of Google. And I'm like, this is so cool. It's all the time. And my uncle's name is Jim. And so when I say, I asked a Gemini, and he's like, no, you didn't. Gemini told me this. He's like, nuh-uh. Because I said no such thing. Yeah.
Can I tell a funny joke real quick?
Please
One of
do.
my
Of course.
former supervisors in my old district was named Sari. And every time she would come in the morning, everyone would say, "Hey, Sari." And then everyone's Apple device would go off at the same time. Yes, yes, yes.
That's funny.
I think about
That's
that.
so
I thought
good.
about that when you just mentioned that about your Uncle Jim. Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
actually
it's
upstairs right now.
is he?
Yeah.
It's exploding right now, right? Like I said earlier, if my dad knows about it, my dad's using it, that's how I know that it's
It's
in the zeitgeist, right? Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
crazy.
And it's becoming easier and easier for people to use, right? Like, it's not like when it first came out, we're like, okay, where is ChatGPT? Am I allowed to use it yet? Like, if you remember, it was like a slow rollout.
hmm
But now, like, even Facebook, Meta, like,
Yeah, it has its
and
own little like AI thing embedded.
well, yeah, it kind of like, and please correct me if I'm like off base here, but like from what I could tell, you'll see a post and it'll give you like little prompts at the bottom to learn more about whatever was posted. So
Yeah.
like
And
if it was like a celebrity or like the fires in LA, for example, or like anything, it's built in that way where it's just like a click of a button at that point to get whatever output. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, I think
I used it
that's
to generate an image one time to go along with something I was going to do right there in Facebook. I didn't have to go somewhere else to generate the image. It was right there in Facebook.
yeah, I think we're going to see that's the direction we're heading in, where it's just going to be infused in like everything that we see and do. Kind of like how when you go to write an email and it starts predicting what your next sentence is going to be. That has existed for a while now. A lot of people don't realize that is a form of AI as well. It's just going to be turnkey like that, where it'll just be there. But also, I think that we'll always have a need for uh, a Claude page to go to kind of get input from Claude or from Copilot or whatever. Yeah, there'll always be a need for that for sure. But
Yeah.
and also you mentioned something like people are getting easier for them to use it, and I agree with that. I think there's still a lot of reluctance. Well, I don't know what to ask it, and we'll give them a template, I'll almost like a sentence frame or like a Mad Lib. I'll give it to them and fill in the blank here, and that's really helpful. But I think like the early adopters are rolling with it now. It's a lot of the young teachers that we see. They're just grabbing a hold of the reins and they're going for it. And it's the older dogs like me that are kind of like looking at it like, I don't know what to ask it. I don't know what it does. What should I'm afraid I'm going to break it, and I have to assure them you're not going to break it. It's fine. Jump on it.
I'm afraid I'm going to break it is literally the biggest hurdle for the older generation of teachers for every single tool you put in front of them, because that was reality when all this stuff started coming out, right? When I was in elementary school and we've got our first computer lab, teachers were worried about going in there because they thought they were going to break it because it literally would. And we'll do PD now in our job. And I'm like, guys, click around. You're not going to break it. If you do, we're going to fix it. It's okay. We got it.
Right.
So it's really interesting because my kids pick up a tablet and start boop, 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 just clicking around trying to do anything and everything. My mother is like, I need a piece of paper. And I'm like, just to have all the like the different generations all in one house because she moved in with us to help us with the boys. She's like writing everything on pencil and paper and then transfers it into the digital thing that where she organizes it and then she puts it in the form. I'm like, Mom, you're doing 3 steps when you could do one.
But
Um,
I'm with you, but then that's how she learned to think, right? There's
mhm.
a connection between the paper and the pencil and the paper, and I can relate to that. There's a part of me that can relate to that, even though it is double the work or maybe even triple the work to do it that way. It helps
But
them
there's
to
also the
organize their
power
thoughts.
in
Yeah,
the pen. There's the power in the pen of
right.
like the brain research of actually writing it out is so much
Mm,
more powerful than to type it
yeah,
out or even to speak it out type of thing. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think with like prompting and that being a thing that we're teaching through our PDs how to prompt properly. I don't know if you guys have read Connor Grennan, but he has a great blog, and he's the dean of something at NYU,
Mm.
and he came to one of our AI Forward meetings that we had at the counties. He was zooming in virtually. Fascinating guy, not a tech nerd at all, but knows a ton about AI. And he said with prompting, we've got it all wrong. You need to talk to it like a human being. Full stop. You need to treat it like a personal assistant. He said, finally, something that English majors are going to be good at. It's been years since we've been good at something. Finally, this is something that we're going to be good at. You just talk to it like a human being. You tell it exactly what you want. You give it context. You tell it, as much as you can about who you are without giving it too much personal information. Give it that context and talk to it like a human being with details and whatnot. And that really
A
stuck with me. That really
descriptive
resonated
language.
with me. Yeah,
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 descriptive language. That's always one
yes,
of those activities that I enjoyed. I was a math teacher, but I was like, you give me the details, paint me a word picture.
right,
And though the people who can do that, they're the ones that are good at,
yes,
especially when you're generating an image of what you want. Um, I find, because I do this all the time, I'll have part of the conversation in my head. And Gemini points that out to me all the time. And I do this with Steve. I do this with my husband. I have part of the conversation in my head, but I don't actually say any of it out loud or type any of it out loud. So Gemini gives me an answer, and I'm like, you're supposed to be reading my mind.
yeah,
And
And
then
it
right.
does not work.
I get very confused as to
Steve's
what's
like, what are
happening.
you talking about? I'm like, the thing we were talking about the other day. He's like, you did not talk to me about that.
Yeah.
I
So that was
I
in my
do
head.
I do think that there's so like because like Andy's something you mentioned earlier with the prompting, like this skill of prompt engineering, basically. This last week, in fact, I co-presented with he's like a tech director for one of the districts I support. Like we did an app smash together um with Cami and Magic School,
Ooh,
Oh,
that's
which
fun.
was a lot of fun, but because working at a company as you can imagine, Andy, that like we get to know Cami really well.
Really well.
sure.
But we don't always get the bandwidth to learn some of these other tools. So when I can co-present with someone from the outside, if you will, it's I learn a lot. And so something he was showing on the Magic School side that I had no idea Magic School did this, but like there's an area in there where it will purposefully coach a student or a teacher how to do the prompting. So
Yes.
like if you fail, not fail, but if you don't get the output that you want, you go to this other place and you're like, all right, Magic School, girl, I'm just trying to like do this. And then it gives you the prompt that's going to be most successful at getting that thing. Um,
Yes.
what a smart approach of like just teaching how to use the AI, because I would imagine that's like insightful for a lot of folks. Um, I don't know. I just think
Yeah.
that's super smart.
I, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. We were just looking at that the other day. Magic School has a new tool customizer feature where the way Magic School works is they have all of their content divided up into like 60 plus buckets or tools, as they call them. And each one performs it. Each one is like a little individual GPT that performs a task, an individual task. Now you can customize those tools like a template. If you find yourself using a certain tool a lot, but you want to just do variations on it, you can customize the tool to your liking. And then it's like I said before, like a Mad Libs, you just plug in a word here and a word there, and it gives you an output. But getting to what you were just talking about, yeah, you can just type in a prompt, and then there's a button right next to it that says get help with the prompt or something like that, and you click it, and it'll punch up your prompt right in front of you, and it's a bizarre experience. It's like, yeah, that's what I meant, right? Yeah, thank you, Magic School. That you make me sound pretty good. You make me sound intelligent. That's awesome. Yeah. And
I was playing around in Magic School this week for I'm getting ready to do a session with them with a district that's a high school district, and it's literally every single, from vocational to special education to core subjects, are all going to be in like the same room with me. And so trying to show something for everybody is kind of difficult. So I went to, and they have Magic School. They wanted to show the app smash of Magic School, Canva and Cami. And I'm like, sweet, challenge, I'm on it. And I'm really into like Greek mythology, like Percy Jackson and all that jazz right now. So I went to Magic School and I'm like, what do I want to do? I want to create content. And then I'm like, okay, so I clicked on the content creator one to create a news article, and it's like a form you fill out. It's very like step you through. What do you want to create? I want to create a news article. What do you want to do? What standard do you want to include? I'm like, this science standard about ecosystems, but it needs to have like Percy Jackson vibe, Camp Half-Blood type thing. And so it was Camp Half-Blood Chronicles about the lion population decreasing because of the lack of rain, and the rain has lost resources. And I'm like, this is great. And it was like making the conclusions for the student, but all I had to do is remove that last sentence out of every little like snippet of the article. And now the students are going to start drawing conclusions. Okay, so what is causing this? What is causing that? Cause and effect. Very sciencey, but very cross-curricular, because this is something they would be reading in in English class, and then learning about Greece in history class, and then we've got graphs in there too, so it's math. And I'm like, yes, cross-curricular. And then I put all that information in Canva, made it pretty. Gemini generated some graphs, and then we're going to talk about how they're not actually accurate compared to the information that's in the news article. This is going to be so fun. I'm so excited.
How fun is, and see, I don't want to say that wouldn't have been possible prior to generative AI, because it would have been possible, but Gen AI,
I wouldn't have been able to do it in one afternoon. So like I generated this information,
so much easier. I
made it pretty, and then I assigned it out, and like all in one afternoon. It's
That's incredible. One of the most incredible, and I'm not going to do it justice explaining it to you guys right now, but one of the most incredible things I have seen this year, Gerardo took me to see a guy speak about Gen AI, and I don't remember the gentleman's name, I apologize, but he did a keynote where he had a GPT that he had built himself in ChatGPT, and it was his personal assistant. And he used it live during his keynote. He had a back and forth with the audience where he would ask the audience questions. What's important to teach your kids right now? What sort of skills are important to prepare them for the 21st century? And he would kind of boil it down to a sentence. And we landed on like STEAM or whatever. And he put that into the GPT. And then he said, okay, now pretend that you're an English teacher and you're teaching a unit on To Kill a Mockingbird. And then he put that into the GPT, and he's like, do a cross-curricular thing where you plan out a STEAM unit using elements from To Kill a Mockingbird. And it did it live, and it was the most amazing thing. One of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Not just that it did that, but then also the human interaction, that he was having us interact with it live, and we were able to see it unfold right in front of us. It was so neat. And I know I'm not doing it justice, but it was like really, really cool to see that that level of interaction. And again, only with Gen AI would you be able to do something like that. Really, really cool.
Because we do have to get to the final question that we always ask, and yes, we'll get to that. But like what you're describing, Andy, like I kind of have a follow-up question based off like what you're describing here. And so oftentimes when I'm seeing all the different tools, the things that are in the classroom right now were not there when I was in it. And it's just like I'm coming up on 3 years, right, that I've been out of the high school classroom. And oftentimes I tell myself, I'm like, man, if I were to go back right now, I would have a whole lot of fun with, and maybe even be more effective with these new tools, these new things. However, I might be blindsided by X, Y, or Z though. So like Sophie and I, we're doing a lot of training, we're doing a lot of PD, but we're not in the buildings, we're not in the streets, so to speak. And you are, if I'm understanding this correctly. So with these new types of technologies, specifically AI, is it in fact making things better? Like maybe speaking to the reality of it, is it in fact helping the lives of teachers and students? And if it is, to what degree? Or maybe it's doing something different or something more negative.
Is it just another thing that they're like, now I have to learn how to use this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a really tough question. That gets to like the ethics of AI and student use of AI and adult use of AI. Is it really improving our lives? Is it a good thing? Am I on the right track here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like when the internet was born, right? Which I'm old enough to remember that. And I remember having a moment like that, like I'm having right now with Gen AI, and seeing it for the first time and thinking, holy moly, this has so many possibilities and could go wrong in so many different ways. And I'm not going to say that I predicted, all of the ills of the internet back then, because I didn't. Things would happen and I'd be surprised by it. But I think it's a mixed bag, like a lot of things. But I think on the whole that it's a positive. Generative AI is a positive. But we need to teach the kids how to use it in an ethical way. That I do believe in my heart of hearts, and it needs to be folded into a digital citizenship, digital literacy curriculum. And there are some out there. Common Sense has a really great digital citizenship curriculum. There's another one that's escaping me right now. AI EDU, I think it's called. That's another really quality free one out there that's a nonprofit. I heard a gentleman speak about that at one of our conferences we did that we attended last year. I think that had the horse has to come before the cart. We have to teach the kids how to use it in an ethical way. What is acceptable use of AI? What is not? And how to protect themselves when they're using it. Don't give it any personally identifiable information. Maybe only give it your first name or no name at all. Do I think it's helping? Yeah, I think one of the first PDs that I did in this district, some teachers it was on AI, and there were some teachers that were pretty upset about how we were promoting AI, and their experience with it up until that point had been that students were using it to cheat. And my heart really went out to them. I had thought of that myself, of course, but I was looking at it through the lens of, well, look at all the good that it can do. It can save you time. It can help you give feedback on student papers. And they were looking at it like, yeah, but we need to block it because our kids are using it to cheat. If we take a step back from that, let's teach the kids how to use it in an ethical way. Kids have cheated since the dawn of time, since the beginning of school. That's nothing new. It's just that now it's so easy for them to do it. It's right in front of them. So now more than ever, it's super important to teach them how to use it in an ethical way. I know there are also concerns about people using AI and not being able to think for themselves, what we were just talking about, like that we prompt it and then the AI prompts us back, well, this is how you can make it better. It does like the thinking for us, and that we're going to, slowly lose that ability to critical think over time. I don't know that I agree with that entirely. I think that it still requires a lot of thought to prompt something, to prompt AI properly and to know how to do it, and to not only that, but adjust your prompts to get the output that you want. And that's maybe something that a lot of teachers don't think about. But there is a back and forth between the AI and you. You have to keep yes.
Yes.
You have to like remove maybe a sentence here or tweak something here to get what you want. So I don't know that I answered your. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to expand on what you were saying. Even if something is generating an image with a Mad Lib prompt,
yeah,
to get it as custom for you, like when I started creating my trading card for the EduGuardians community, my haircut is not something that normally comes easy to tell Gen AI to create.
yeah.
So it was something that I spent a lot of time trying to explain to it what my edgy haircut looks like. And edgy was the word. Edgy got it.
Yeah.
But and then it was also like it seemed to be a little overly sensitive when we were trying to generate images of what a real body looks like for a woman, because you're like, make her fluffy, and they're like, you can't use that word. And I'm like, okay, so let's be well-rounded. Let's be like, we had to get really creative of what word we were going to put in there, because it wouldn't allow you to say busty, fat. Oh, like it wouldn't allow you to say those words, anything that could have been seen as mean. And I was like, how how do you explain your body when certain words aren't allowed to be used? And how do you explain your haircut when it can't see you?
Right.
So that was really it was challenging critical thinking of other words to like come up with.
Yeah, when the AI has biases of it itself, and also there are limits to what it can allow. I was doing a lesson with a fourth grade group of kids on the Native Americans, and we were trying to generate images of a Native American village using the picture generator in Canva. And so we were prompting, and the kids were getting really creative of how they described it. But I was trying to generate a picture of Adobe huts, and I put Adobe in the description, and it would not allow it. It kept giving an error. Sorry,
it's like
we don't. Yeah,
we're not friends.
Intellectual property. Yeah, it was like no Adobe. So I had to change it to mud huts. So still, like, there's still some critical thinking involved. What other word or phrase can I use other than Adobe that'll still get the point across? Like you describing trying to get it to do your haircut. Yeah, I don't think we're going to lose that just yet. That critical thinking piece.
Yeah.
I find that it actually helps me become more creative, because it's that bouncing ideas off of it. I give this idea, I'm like, what do you think? And then I'm like, okay, so I like this, but I don't like this part of that. And I'm like, give me 10 title options, and then I pick and choose the words to create this perfect title for a presentation. Steve?
Well, there has to be a back and forth, right? People still want to treat it like a search engine and give it one query and get an output, and I'm done. I'm going to take my output and I'm going to go bye-bye, but there has to be...
It's not Googling. It's not. Right. Like that's, and I think kind of what you two are describing is like this concept of like, we learn historically, we've always learned by discourse.
Yes.
With a teacher, with a peer, with a mentor, right? At the core of it, how is that different than like doing that same thing with like a chat GPT? And you're still like, again, like I kind of did the gesture earlier, but like just the whole back and forth, right? We are grossly out of time, folks. So I do, Andy, this has been a really fun conversation. before we wrap it up, though, we always we always ask our guests, like, what is top of mind for you? What is maybe keeping you up at night, but also maybe like what is something that's maybe exciting that we need to be talking about? Just really curious as to what's top of mind or under the hat for you.
Well, I think it's everything we've covered in this conversation right off the bat. Number one, all the generative AI out there is always top of mind, forefront on my mind. I don't know if this is the part where I can plug things, but I wanted to also mention that Orange County Q, which I am a member of, has a large event that we hold every year called Tech Fest, and that is top of mind for me right now. We're in the planning stages of it. It is going to be next month, March 8th. It will be here in Orange County at Stacy Middle School. It's a full day of learning. And for the low price of $60 if you're a non-Q member, or $40 if you are, you get a t-shirt, you get swag, you get fed twice, and you get a full day of learning. So where can you find that? Anywhere. I challenge you. Where can you find that?
Just
anywhere?
the food is worth it. Like,
Yeah.
Right? Price of food. Yeah. So anyway, you can register on ocq.org, which is our website. And I urge you to go out there and register. And let me think. Let me look at my notes. I'm going to be a total nerd here. I guess that's probably pretty much it. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So in the banner there, OCQ, which is a phenomenal affiliate. They're all good friends, but the work that Andy's doing within his own affiliate is phenomenal. There's Andy's little, where you find him anywhere on the socials, I'm assuming. And you also, Andy, you have a podcast of your own.
I do.
Yeah, and which I've been on, by the way.
You have, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
We had an excellent discussion, you and I, about your journey as well. And Sophie, I'd love to have you on the podcast too. We don't drop quite as regularly as you guys do. We're busy people, but we would love to have you back, Steve, and we would love to have you, Sophie.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
No.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mention it. my podcast is called Building Community, and that's CUEMMUNITY, Building Community with OCQ.
Cute.
And you can find it everywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, you name it.
Yeah. No, it was a whole lot of fun, doing a lot of good work there. But Andy, thanks so much for spending this Saturday with us. I know you are a busy individual, so we really appreciate it.
I appreciate you both. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been a pleasure.
Yeah, awesome. All right, friends. Well, until next time, next weekend, no show. I forget where I'm at. I'm somewhere doing in-person stuff. I'm somewhere. Yeah. But expect some exciting stuff as we wrap up into, we're already in February. Even though January did seem like it was 52 days for some reason.
Long.
I don't know. But yeah, really excited for February. And we can't announce it yet, but there is going to be some specialness that we're preparing for the month of March. So yes, be on the lookout for March. Super excited for that. When it's available and ready for in unveiling, we will certainly do that. But until then, friends, keep it all together. I know it's a crazy time of the year, but be sure to keep your hats on, but your minds open. We'll chat next time. Bye-bye.